Hello and welcome to Oriara. My name is Cassandra Delin and I am your host. And I'm trying something a little new this time. I am not only recording this podcast audio, but I'm also recording video for the very first time. And even though you've probably seen me on tons of video, I am not very comfortable on video, believe it or not. Like I've got some old stories in my head about being on camera. And so I'm not comfortable here, but I'm doing it. I'm going to get past this. This is an exercise and a practice for my personal growth and development. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me. But for those of you who are listening, if you hear a different energy or I just appear very tentative or just something's different, that's probably what it is because there's also a camera in my face and I'm very aware of that. But I'm really excited about finally getting to this subject or getting to this show to talk about this subject. Today, we're going to be talking about respecting your power. And I've been wanting to talk about this for a while because I went through this experience a while ago, but now I'm on the other side and I'm prepared to talk about it. You know, I remember, I think it's Nicole Walters that says that you're supposed to share from your scars, not from your wounds. And that's because our scars are healed, right? And you've learned the lessons and then you're able to share versus our wounds being like open and fresh and new and I don't know, prone to infection. So you don't share at that point. You still keep it, covered up and it's healing. So I'm on the other side. I think I've learned the lessons and I'm so happy to share. And the idea of respecting and owning your power is a subject that's coming up a lot in my universe because I've got a 13-year-old daughter. I'm sorry, I've got a 14-year-old daughter. I keep forgetting. Geez, I've got a 14-year-old daughter. And for those of you who have teen or tween daughters, you'll understand. You've got this young woman who's coming into her power, and it's a beautiful thing. It is an absolute beautiful thing. It is a joy for the most part to watch and experience, but you've got this young woman coming into her power and she's testing it, she's experimenting with it, she's pushing boundaries, and she's taking you to like the edge of everything. And it's a good thing, it's a beautiful thing, again, because I want her to feel comfortable and confident in wielding her power and knowing how to own it and use it, while she's out there in the world, but not in my house. Not against me, right? So I find myself having a lot of conversations with my daughter about what it means to be a powerful woman. And so, yeah, this is coming up a lot in my universe. And yeah, it's a conversation I'm having with my teenager, but I know it's a conversation that us women probably should be having a little bit more. Because as we are coming into power, as we are leveling up, as we're succeeding, as we're excelling, as we are obtaining this power, I don't find that we are having the commiserate conversations about respecting that power, replenishing that power, how to manage that power. Because historically, power has not belonged to us. It belonged to a different group of people who looked a lot different than us, men, white men. And so as women, as we've been coming up through the ranks and we've been obtaining power, we're getting there, but the being there holds a lot of lessons for us that we have been slow in learning. We've been really slow in learning. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But so here's what happened. A while ago, I realized that my body did not feel good. I was struggling. I just I didn't feel good in my skin, not as good as I'm used to. And I didn't feel like liberated and free. I'm used to feeling liberated and free and really nimble and fluid and comfortable. I literally feel like I'm flying in my body sometimes. I feel so good. But that had not been happening recently. So usually Monday through Friday in the morning I lift, and then in the evenings I go and do yoga. And I go and do yoga because it's not the workout; it is the mental and emotional release that I get from yoga. So I've been maintaining that schedule for a while now, years, because it works for me. But I had found that recently when I was going to do my evening practice, my evening yoga practice, that my body was stiff and sore, and it didn't feel good. It just didn't feel good. They were almost painful. It was almost like I was in the beginning of my yoga journey and my body would not give. Like I like to use the analogy of a brand new rubber band. You know how when you stretch that brand new rubber band that first time, it kind of snaps, and it has a give to it after that. But before that, it's really, really, tight. And that's how my body felt. It felt really, really tight, like there was just no give. So I started to stretch every morning. So I would finish lifting and then I would go and hit the mat for like 10, 15 minutes, immediately following my workouts while my body was still warm, and stretch, and then still go do yoga in the evening. But that wasn't even working. I really felt like something was wrong, like my recovery was just trash. And so I calmed down and then did some backtracking. I'm like, okay, let me rationalize this. Let me go through the list of things that this could possibly be. So I thought about my water, check. My rest, check. Working out, obviously, was doing that, check. But then I got to my nutrition. And then I realized that I had accidentally become vegetarian, which is something that I will come back and talk about on this podcast at some point, because again, I'm on the other side of that lesson and I think it's really important to share. So I will talk about the experience I had of becoming an accidental vegetarian. But during the same period of time, I wasn't eating meat, which also means my body was not getting enough protein or amino acids. So it wasn't recovering, and it was no wonder my body felt like trash. But because this was an accident, I didn't plan for it. Like I wasn't supplementing, I wasn't doing anything. I just wasn't eating meat, and my body was quite literally breaking down. So once I identified that, I got to work, right? Like I began to formulate a plan so that I'm getting the nutrition that my body needs in order to thrive. But in the meantime, I had some choices to make about the actual workout, right? I am used to going in the gym and like going hard. Like I get to the gym and I love using my strength. I'm a strong woman. I have built a muscle and a strength over these years that I'm really proud of, and I feel good. I feel powerful using that strength. And so I'll go into the gym and dumbbell curl 30-pound dumbbells, and I will bench press 135. Like I feel powerful and I feel so good. But if I were to continue to do that, it would completely like shred my muscles. My recovery has been trash. It hasn't been there. So I didn't want to go into the gym and use all of my power and use all of my strength and then pay the cost of not being able to recover. Does that make sense? Like it just wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth it. I want to do this, but knowing what it would take out of me or require of me, it was a too great of a cost, honestly, to use my power, knowing how it was hurting me in the long run. So the other option that I explored was going into the gym and moderating and kind of just going half-assed, basically. And I hated it. I hated it. That did not last long. That did not last long because there is no joy. There's no fulfillment. There's nothing, quite literally nothing happening going into the gym and just going through the motions. Your body doesn't benefit. My mind didn't benefit. It was frustrated. The only benefit was that my muscles were getting a chance to recover, but they could recover if I just stayed in bed, right? I didn't need to go to the gym to rest my muscles. I can rest my muscles at home. I get up early, right? I go to the gym early. I get up at 4 a.m. and I don't go to the gym that early, but I get up early and I go to the gym early. Usually it's still dark outside. And if the goal was just to spare my muscles, I'd stay my butt in bed and sleep in. So that just wasn't fun. And so I had to decide, what I was going to do. I didn't know. I didn't know. And so, when I sat back though and took in and understood where I was and what was going on with me, I was kind of shocked, shook, because I feel like I know my body very well. I talk a lot about having a relationship with my body, and I wasn't prepared for all of this. I really wasn't prepared for all of this. And so even though I was formulating a plan on how to receive the nutrients my body needed, there was still more of like an energetic spiritual questioning that I had going on. It's like, really though, like, why did this happen? Or how did this happen? And then I got to thinking about it. Because my thought was, this has never happened to me before. I can't believe this is happening. But when I got to thinking about it and meditating on it, I received a message from Spirit that was really clear. And that message was, is that, yeah, Cassandra, as a matter of fact, you have been here before. You've been here before in your corporate life. Yeah, I've been here before in my corporate life where I've been in corporate for about 20 years. The first 10 years, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just here for the ride. But the last 10 years, I've been really intentional about climbing the corporate ladder, if you will. And I had really great female mentors, men and female mentors, but some of the female mentors really stick out in my mind to help me get promoted, take on new assignments, and stretch myself. They were fantastic about helping me navigate the corporate world. But what they weren't able to teach me, what they did not teach me, was how to manage the responsibility and manage the power that I was obtaining in that climb as I was growing. I'm pulling in power. People are giving it to me as an old, maybe like the perception of power. You don't really have power in corporate, but they make you think you do, right? So I was going through all of this, but I wasn't really being taught how to manage that. And what I mean by that is that, I was superwoman during the week, Monday through Friday. When I was in my work life, I was superwoman. I was, coming in early, staying late, doing all of the things, and in corporate world, that you're a hero for those things. You're a team player. You are loyal to the company. I mean, they make you feel all different types of good. There's bonuses and there's gifts and there's money, all for sacrificing yourself for corporate. And but you feel powerful. You have a sense of power, even though again it's not real power. You have a sense of power. And so, yeah, I was superwoman Monday through Friday, doing everything I could to be good and maintain my power. But then I would sleep damn near all day on the weekends. And, during family time, I would be on my phone answering emails or just other forms of multitasking. And I would be stressed out and almost resentful towards my children about their doctor's appointments or their school events or anything that was taking me away from the power that I had at corporate, right? If I had to cancel or be late for a conference call, a meeting, a business trip, whatever, I was, and it wasn't even just my children, it was anything that interrupted that corporate rhythm. I felt like they were kind of being haters, didn't want me to be great because clearly, clearly I was great, when I was at work. And I liked the way that felt. I mean, that's that. I liked the way that felt. But I didn't appreciate how much my children needed me. I didn't appreciate how much I needed me. I wasn't even there for myself. But I didn't realize this at that time. I didn't realize at the time how much this was taking out of me. I didn't realize the cost of this success. I didn't realize the cost to me and my family for me to obtain and then maintain this power. And the reason I didn't realize it is because that's what everyone was doing. Like that was the norm. That was what, there was no counter narrative. No one was coming to check for me. No one was like, hey, sis, are you doing okay? Are you taking breaks? Like there was none of that. It was high five. You stayed up all night to finish that report. Like there was no one doing it any other way. And so, our ideas about what it is to be successful and powerful require this sacrifice that we're totally willing to give up, this sacrifice of our health, our time, our sanity, our family life, whatever, but all for the sake of maintaining or obtaining this power, and to be quote unquote, to be successful. And obviously at some point there came a day where I was like, man, this is not cool. This is not how I want to live my life. Having this power, being this successful is taking a lot out of me. And I don't want to spend my life like this. Like there has to be a change. And so, I could, I guess, fast forward to today and the way I live my life today and how you guys have come to know me today is with much greater harmony in my life. I don't like the term balance. Balance to me is not a bad word, but it's definitely a falsehood. So I put all of that aside and changed my life. I changed my life. But what the message ultimately is for everyone here today is that there is definitely, and I've said this for years, that there's definitely a parallel between you as a person and your fitness or your health, and there's that saying, what is that saying? Why did it just literally leave my mind? It's like, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And that is absolutely the case here. As much as I didn't want to at first admit it, or I couldn't draw the connection, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. You take yourself into everything you do, you take yourself everywhere you go. And so if you are mismanaging power in one area of your life, you're probably mismanaging power in other areas of your life. And I'm not much of a movie person. Like, I like movies, but I'm not like I'm not a movie buff, right? But I do have some form of frame of reference from movies about superheroes, young superheroes coming into their power and needing to be taught how to use their power so they don't hurt themselves or anyone else. Like, do you have a frame of reference of that? Like, excuse me, that there are certain things that these superheroes must do so that they can use their powers and even replenish their powers, so that they can continue, so that there's a continuity and a continuance of their ability to go out there and save the world, right? Because they could end up hurting themselves or hurting others if they're not properly using their power. And that's what this reminds me of for us as women. We come into these positions of power, but we aren't being taught how to use that power, how to replenish that power, the ethics of using the power, the guidelines of using that power. It just completely has missed us. No one's talking about that. And so, and the other and the other part about that is that we no one is asking us to go out there and save the world. Well, maybe depending on the kind of the corporate environment that you work at, but by and large, like some of the sacrifices we're willing to make are being made on our own volition. Like, no one is coming in demanding that of us. It's just that we have this idea that we are the only people in the world that can do whatever the job is, or we're the only ones who can do it with the quality, and we're the ones who can do it the best. And so we willingly sacrifice ourselves, like we throw ourselves on the altar of corporate success and corporate power, and no one's really asking us to do that. It's really kind of comes down to our ego. And I'm going to come back in a little bit and do a podcast about how we as women make far too many sacrifices that no one is asking us to make. But at the end of the day, there's just rules of engagement and there's guidelines. And when it comes to any kind of power or any kind of strength that you have, and oftentimes we don't learn about them at all. But in this particular case, with my body and the lack of recovery, I learned about it, but really at a late stage, after my body literally started to break down because I wasn't giving it the protein and the amino acids. My body was quite literally cannibalizing itself, eating its own muscle. My body was eating my muscle in order to receive the protein and the amino acids that I wasn't feeding it. But in my case, it's just some tissue and some muscle fibers, mostly in my legs, that were being affected. But sometimes for people who aren't properly managing their power, there's other organs, including their heart, that sometimes are being affected negatively. I'm blessed that my hard-hitting lesson was just aesthetic, and I can go on to live a good quality life, like and just live at all. I'm very fortunate, but there's many people who the only the only muscle that's being worked, if at all, is their heart. And if they're not respecting their power and replenishing it, they could suffer some really negative consequences. So like the message here is to give some thought to your power. I have no doubt in my mind, because I know the woman that I'm talking to. I know you because I've been her. I am her, or was her, right? Like, I get it. And sis, we are out there killing it. We are the queens of carrying a heavy load and making it look good, making it look fucking fantastic, as a matter of fact. But at what cost, right? So you're killing it, but what? Stuck on medications. You're killing it, but you are exhausted and cannot get through the day without Red Bulls or tons of coffee and caffeine. And that's actually encouraging fat storage, which can be another podcast if you like. Killing it, but you're too tired to have fun with your friends and family. You're killing it, but you're surprised when you can't fit into your clothes anymore. You're killing it, but you require a bottle of wine every night and all day on the weekends. It's like rosé all day. Isn't that the saying? So it's, you're killing it, but. And at what point is the cost too great? At what point do we draw the line and say, this is costing me too much? We don't often pause long enough to give ourselves permission to really think about that. Now, the great news is that you are in a position of power. Excuse me. You've already proven to yourself that you can do amazing things. You've already proven yourself that you can accomplish whatever you want. You are where you are because you have that internal drive, that strength, that fortitude. You looked around at some point in your life and you're like, I'm the only one who can do this. And then you went out there and you did it. The reason, the reason you are where you are is because you have the ability to affect change in your life. And this is no different. This is absolutely no different. And I think I'm going to end with this. I had a different thought in my mind, but I think I want to end with this, that being in a state of gratitude is probably one of the best steps, one of the best first steps we can take towards making a change in our life when it comes to us slowing down and treating ourselves better, respecting the power that we are, and replenishing the power that we are. I think one of the best first steps we can take is by being in a state of gratitude, because being in a state of gratitude forces you to acknowledge where you are and the fact that you can achieve anything you want in life. Like I'm kind of gesturing and pointing around my office because this is one of those things that I manifested and I'm super duper appreciative of. But being in a state of gratitude, you can't be in gratitude and still be shaking your head no and saying that I can't, that's not possible. Like you can't have both at the same time. So when you enter a state of gratitude, your gratitude is proof that what you want is possible. Like you can quite literally look around and touch and feel the things that you are grateful for, even if it's just yourself, but you can touch and feel the things that you're grateful for, and you know that it's possible. And so sit in that knowing, sit in that awareness, sit in that understanding that what you have around you and what you are grateful for is possible. It's possible. It's not a dream. It's not a wish. Because you are grateful for it, your current appreciation for your circumstances makes it a fact. It's not something out there in the ethers, right? Like it's real. You can do anything. So, I guess it's just, let's learn how to respect and honor and care for this power that we've worked so hard for and that we've earned. Let's figure out how to use it responsibly. Let's figure out how to properly replenish it. Because if we don't have you as the beautiful, wonderful superhero that you are, taking care of yourself, then who is going to save the world, right? Like, we need you, sis. So take care of yourself. And that's today's message. So with that, I thank you so much for your time and listening to me. If you've made it to this point, namaste. And until the next podcast.